Welcome to the Intrazone Roadmap Pitstop February 2021 edition. This is a bonus monthly show that answers that burning question in your mind: what's rolling out now for SharePoint and related technology in Microsoft 365? I'm Mark Cashman, Senior Product Manager on the Microsoft 365 marketing team, here to set that ongoing record straight. This month, I talk with Naomi Moneypenny, our engineering lead principal PM manager at Microsoft, and she has recently been known to form an amazing team behind Project Cortex. You may have heard of SharePoint Syntax, and this month, Microsoft Viva Topics. We'll talk with her about all of the things that go behind it and more. Even in February 2021, with only 28 days, that did not slim down the innovation. We've got a lot to cover. We'll focus on what landed this month, a few related items, and always the fun teasers looking into next month. This podcast is your 30 minutes to kick back and get informed, to always stay ahead of that ever-curving Microsoft 365 roadmap. Now, Punxsutawney Phil says 6 more weeks of winter. And you know what Phil can do. He can take his winter prediction and shove it. Love you, Phil. Beautiful shadow as always. A little more sun maybe next time. On to the tech that rolled out in February 2021. Topics is the latest product output from the Project Cortex project and the Project Cortex team, bringing artificial intelligence to empower people with knowledge and expertise in the apps they use every day and to connect, manage, and protect content across systems and teams. It is one of 4 Microsoft Viva modules recently announced, Viva being the new employee experience platform built on Microsoft 365 that empowers people and teams to be their best from wherever they work. With Topics, you harness the knowledge of your organization and connect people to that knowledge in the apps that they use every day. Think of Viva Topics as a Wikipedia with AI superpowers. It uses AI to automatically organize company-wide content and expertise into relevant categories like projects, products, processes, and customers. There's a lot to Viva, especially for Topics as it was released to general availability this month, but let's put a pin in it for now, knowing a depth of knowledge is coming when we speak with Naomi in a few minutes. Next up for employee experiences, the SharePoint Web Part Toolbox is getting a really nice visual and usability update. This is one for page owners or site owners that design a lot of content on their site or on their site's homepage. If you're new to using web parts, one thing the team discovered was the lack of discoverability of all those useful web parts, finding them. So to help, we are updating the Web Part Toolbox to make it easier to find and use web parts on pages and news posts. We've added categories, a toggle to switch between a grid view and a list view, web part descriptions in the list view, and a section for users' most frequently used web parts. Get back to those ones you're using most often. And anytime we talk about web parts in the area of learning more about what each does, I like to highlight that we have a wonderful support article that shows how to use these web parts and enumerates all of our active SharePoint web parts with how-to links to learn about each one. I will definitely put a link in the related blog so you can go and really see visually what all of these do. Bringing content visualization to life across your internet pages and news, now with a greater creator visibility when using the service and leveraging all those web parts. Next up is the Lightbox for images. A Lightbox pop-up is a window overlay that appears on top of a web page. With this update, when people click on or tap on an image in SharePoint, they will be able to see a larger version of the image in the Lightbox. When viewing the image in the Lightbox, the remainder of the page is inactivated and dimmed. And then it's easy to close the Lightbox, turn back to the rest of the page. There have been a lot of things, a lot of tech for uploading and working with images during the edit phase, so you can crop, resize, rotate, and once you've gotten just the way you want the image to be, now your readers will see it and be able to see it in a larger, more focused way in all of its glory with the new image Lightbox. Next up is the ability to target audiences from within the quick links web part. We are adding the ability to target specific audiences per link within the quick links web part. With it, you'll be able to target specific links to different audiences, helping you provide a more personalized experience on SharePoint pages, really where you can refine down so many things now and adding to that the quick links web part. There's a great how-to so that you can learn how to do this in the context of the overall audience targeting platform that's available to you throughout your intranet. Next and last, but a pretty important one for when you think about launching a large portal or a large site that you're getting ready to put out there into the intranet for all employees, we now have an offering that we call the SharePoint Portal Launch Scheduler. That for sure is a nice tongue twister and a feature designed to help coordinate and schedule launch details for SharePoint sites that are expected to receive high volumes of traffic, which, like a good SharePoint tongue twister, can be tricky. So say it 5 times fast with me, and even before you're done saying it 5 times fast, you'll probably be ready to launch your portal. The portal launch wizard available via the SharePoint PowerShell is designed to configure the deployment waves when launching a new site. It provides an automatic redirect for users dependent on which redirect option is selected. The portal launch scheduler makes it possible for you to manage a phased rollout for a new SharePoint site. It also provides an automatic redirect for existing sites if needed. During each of the waves, you can gather user feedback and monitor performance. This provides a managed way to slowly introduce a portal of a significant size, giving you the option to pause and resolve issues before you proceed and make it available to even more people, ultimately ensuring a positive experience for your users from the start to fully launched. Lots of great documentation on how to use the SharePoint Portal Launch Scheduler to help you roll out with confidence. Let's now take a pause and chat with Naomi Moneypenny to learn a lot more about Microsoft Viva Topics now that it's generally available out into the public. So we've reached that time in the show where we want to pause and hear from the real minds behind the scenes, the folks at Microsoft who are building the technology. And this month, I'm very pleased to be joined on the Intrazone with Naomi Moneypenny. She is our principal PM manager at Microsoft for a lot of things, and you'll just get that out of what we talk about, but primarily around this thing we call Viva and this thing we call search. But without further ado, Naomi, welcome back to the Intrazone.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's a pleasure to be back here.
Good. Well, I'm glad that you don't mind coming back to the Intrazone and sharing the latest of what you've been working on. You know, from your LinkedIn profile, it says you've formed a team that's focused on building some advanced experiences with content services and search. And now we get at least to put 2 names to that. We've got SharePoint Syntax and this month, Viva Topics. So first, congratulations, Microsoft Viva Topics general availability. What does that feel like?
Woohoo! It feels amazing. Finally, we got to do this. So yes, it's been an incredible journey the last couple of years, all the way from, dealing with the modernization of the Managed Metadata service, which is the other big thing that we did ship as part of what we call Project Cortex, then SharePoint Syntax, and now Viva Topics GA. So incredibly excited for sure.
You said Project Cortex. I think the genesis of it, I think, is probably fairly well known with our audience. What's your one-liner for Project Cortex these days? And maybe that it's fading into the background. How would you frame it these days?
We think about it as a team, right? We are a team of ideation essentially inside of Microsoft. And really what we're doing with Project Cortex is the wider team that we have looking across Azure as well as the Power Platform and Microsoft 365, even all the way into Microsoft Research. And so what we're doing with Project Cortex is really thinking about how we're incubating new tech, bringing that into full solutions for our customers.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to use that word, the keyword solutions. And, it's a bundle of what we have and obviously a lot of new things that we don't have that now our customers are going to experience in a different way or maybe, in a more centralized way where it really brings a lot together. But I know there's a lot of new things that you're building, which is, of course, what we want to focus on today. With what Topics does now and how we promote it and how it actually works for our customers, why has it always been so hard to harness knowledge, especially at the scale of the enterprise?
It's a great question. It really is an amazingly easy and yet such a difficult question, right, to deal with. And I think there's a lot of complexity in there. And the knowledge is this very transient thing. It's incredibly important to how we run a business, and yet a transient thing inside of our organizations, because it's hard to capture it, right? It's hard to put a value on it, except that when you don't have it, it's terrible, right? So we really think about that. So when I look at harnessing knowledge and I think about this inside of your organization, it's like, how do we help that transmittal of what is know-how inside of people's minds, which is accumulated by working with customers, working with business processes, recognizing how things could get better, and then having a common understanding that's across your organization as well. And so when we're thinking about harnessing knowledge, it's about having a coherent strategy about how we deliver something in the right time, in the right place, that know-how, and how we help folks who are subject matter experts, of which we are all subject matter experts in something, right? Think about those subject matter experts, people like you and me. How do we actually put that into a way that they can easily contribute what they know, easily be able to share what it is that they know, and how can AI basically help them on that mission?
Based on the keyword topics and a topic card on Hover, I learned that Naomi Moneypenny leads a team that builds this thing.
Well, that's awesome, but that's what we want.
It's true. Like, it's a meta point. It really happened. I really saw it in practice. So one more thing historically that I think a lot of people might relate this to or think about is, at least for SharePoint for sure, there has always been the type of experience that you can build around search. And in this new modern area, this graph-based experience of how pages and sites look and how the content comes to you, that kind of thing. In that relation with topics, how does it relate to search? Either now with the product in market or just going forward, how can people think about what topics does in relation to Microsoft Search?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So obviously I used to work on Microsoft Search and I still do in the Search and SharePoint and OneDrive experiences too. And so there's a couple things that I would say that make this different as well as similar with Search. And the first thing I want to call out is kind of the proactivity of the experience. In some ways, if I have to search for that information, I've kind of failed to serve it to you as a person, right? And so if only the knowledge could find me, if only the content could find me, if only it could proactively suggest the people and the knowledge that are connected together in the context of the work that I'm doing. And so actually having to type in a bunch of keywords in search is maybe not the best interface for that, right? Sometimes you do know exactly what you're looking for, but a lot of times you don't even know what keywords to put in to even search for, right? And so, and that becomes a proactive experience that we want to demonstrate there. Now, the wonderful thing is search, of course, is a massive entry point for everything that we do. So if you do know the topic name, if you do know a person or something about this area, then at least we can help to serve you a topic answer in that context. And that topic answer is the same as a topic card that we might have shown in a highlight inside of Outlook or in Teams or in SharePoint. And that highlight is basically helping me to understand the context of what that topic means in this particular area. And then it helps me to understand the people and the knowledge, the content that's connected there. Now, when I look at topics generally, this is something about understanding that knowledge network and how it's presenting to you. So that network needs to come to you. It needs to understand and put you at the center, right? You are the center of your own universe, right? In this perspective. And so with the network there, we want to make sure that the content, the people, those connections between all of that are actually rich and that they're being served to you directly. And that's really what we think about, taking knowledge, harnessing that knowledge and putting the employee at the center of this work.
Yeah, and I mean, if the employee has answers or doesn't even know that they have a question, but nature of coming across things that they don't fully understand, having that be described to them or that they can drill in right there, I think is hugely valuable. Which I think leads us to then, what is Microsoft Viva Topics? The first most obvious thing that people will see it in the context of a demo, or if they start using it within their tenant, is the topic card, which leads to topic pages. We may have kind of lightly already talked about them just in the discussion already, but what are those and how did you go about building them?
It's a great question because when you think about a topic, how do you look at all of the assets that you have inside of your company? And you have to think through, like, if only somebody could just go through everything I had inside of my entire SharePoint of my organization, and, the connected systems that are coming into the Microsoft graph. If only somebody could just go through and just figure out like what are the logical blocks of this stuff, right? Wouldn't that be awesome, right? If I could just have somebody just spend their entire day just reading through all of the content that's out there already inside of my corporate intranet and then figure out like what those blocks are. Well, guess what? That's what we're doing with Viva Topics, right? Basically, we're using AI here and that partnership between people and AI to help identify what are some of the topics that exist inside of your company based on all of the content that you already have. And that manifests itself in a nice, unobtrusive way, right? We think about invisible technology, right? The next barrier of information technology is really about invisible technology. And the question is how can I serve you that information, not in a busy, messy way, not in a thing that's obtrusive into your daily work. I just kind of want to know about that information when I need to. And then how can we serve that up to you? And that's really where the topic card was born from. So it takes the same kind of expression that we have with the people card, that live people card inside of the intranet as well as all across Microsoft 365. And so it's kind of a thing that goes with along with that person and sees all your details, that kind of stuff. And so on that topic card, what we're doing is, hey, we found a topic. Here's a definition. It's been suggested by AI. Here's the document that it was sourced from, because it's really important to be able to establish trust there to make sure that that definition is grounded in reality. And where did AI come with that definition? Well, guess what? It's right there. We also have the other names that are for that topic. So for example, if you have acronyms or other things that topic might go by, maybe it's old project names, that kind of stuff, you can also put those in there too. And then importantly, you see those people and then you see those resources too. And the resources are content that exists inside of your existing corporate intranet, and you're using that information. That topic card is very small, but it is very mighty because that invisible technology wants to permeate all the way through Microsoft 365 and to show you the information, show you that knowledge in the context of what you're doing in work. And so you can think about it as kind of that mini aggregation. And the next step is, of course, then a topic page. So when I click through onto that topic card and say, yes, I want to know more about this particular area, I click through onto that topic page. And that topic page is really an aggregation experience, right? It's helping me to, again, get context, understand where it's sourced a definition from there, understand the documents that it's connected to. Here's all the people that have something to do with this area because they're collaborating on that information. And we can see all of that from the Microsoft Graph. And then we can also have folks go in there and help to curate that information too. Now, one of the most powerful things that we have on a topic page is the ability to do this topic map there as well. And that topic map shows me the relationships between topics, because oftentimes context is key, right? If only I could figure out how this thing relates with this other project in my organization, I could save a whole bunch of time. And so that's a big area for us, both in the current version as well as many, many future improvements that we're making too. So hopefully that helps give a little bit of an overview of some of the experiences that we have.
I think it does. And, I remember from a previous talk, I just remembered one thing that you said was that combination, you said it again here, of humans plus AI. This is not a complete leave it to the robot thing, even though there's a lot of lifting that will happen in the back end, but that there's also that curation, so you'll never go to a topic card or a topic page that's static. Yet at the same time, you can program it so there are specific things when somebody goes to that level. I think that's huge. I know that's a lot of what you're building. But to hear you say it in the context of this is not just an automated system that you can't control, that there is, human curation. And there are some things, even when you think about the next level, which is a topic center, programming the web part that you all have published now. What are some of those things that either as a site owner or as an admin, where I can start to say, thank you, robot, I'll take it from here?
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, I think about it as people and AI, as you mentioned. So that partnership between people and AI is incredibly important because AI is just there to take that first cut, right? It's the thing that you would do if only I could clone myself and I could read through all this information on my entire corporate intranet, I would be able to take the first cut at it, right? And sometimes you just need a first cut. And that's really what the AI is doing inside of Viva Topics. But as you think about it, you say, hey, somebody's got to look at this stuff inside of my organization. Maybe I've got to figure out what this topic means, who are the right subject matter experts that should actually be curating this information. And that's where really we see the opportunity both with the topic center itself, as well as being able to have advanced capabilities for knowledge managers too. So let's talk about the Topic Center. The Topic Center right now has a bunch of web parts, and those are awesome web parts because you can put them on any intranet site that you have inside of your organization. So the first one is the Topics web part. That Topics web part helps you to understand how you are connected to multiple topics. And that's an important piece of it because you want to make sure that you have control, right? You want to have control of like, hey, where do I show up on these topic pages? And how do I keep up to date with them as well? And so that Topics web part allows you to say, yes, I need to, say this is me and it's the right topic. And I want to confirm that this topic is a real thing and that I should be connected to it. Whereas like, no, that was something I did in my old job 6 months ago. I want to get rid of it, right? And so you're able to do that. And it's an important piece then, again, of using that human confirmation, the people signals in there to make sure that we're actually accurately representing what you're doing too. Now, on the knowledge manager front, if there are folks that are, either doing this as part of their job or they have a specific organization around it, now you can actually look through as a knowledge manager. Here's all the topics that we could find inside of your organization that AI has taken a suggestion on. And would you like to take some of the first cuts of that? And so that's a great way to be able to say, hey, there's some things that are really important inside of your organization. We want to make sure that those do get curated and they're available across the company. And so that knowledge manager tools allows me to see that. In those knowledge manager tools, it allows me to see how many suggested topics there are for me. So it could be, tens of thousands maybe inside of your organization. If it's a big organization, if it's a small company, you might see a couple thousand as part of that. And then once you've got that, then we also generate things like a quality score, essentially, that helps you to understand how complete is the information that AI has about that topic. And then we also show things like being able to see how many impressions that those topics get. So it helps you to say, hey, this is where I need to spend my time first. Things of, high quality that's already been AI detected, and then helps me to understand how many impressions something gets. So these are the things that people are looking for. And so I can use both of those areas to focus my time as well.
I want to say what you just described sounds like the Managed Metadata service for knowledge.
It's interesting.
If it is that, or if it's at least a pattern way to look at it, I feel like you're building a taxonomy from topics.
Yeah, that's what's interesting to me. It's like the taxonomy relationship is really interesting. If you think about networks, right, and hierarchies, and so not to get all meta on everything, but in this case, hierarchies are, failed networks is what I always say, right? Hierarchies are basically networks that are connected by ones and zeros. And then in this case, with what we're doing with knowledge is actually creating a network of connections across your organization. And so we need to give you tools to how you manage that network, right? And not make it overwhelming for folks or having to do a bunch of parent and child relationships between things. Maybe there are connections, maybe there aren't. Sometimes structure is really helpful to have that hierarchy, but we want to give you great ways to actually manage a network because knowledge is a network inside of your company. Your whole company is generally a network, right? We talk about matrix organizations and those kinds of structures. It really is reflective of how knowledge changes, transposes, and is moved around across an organization as well. And so we want to have that network structure and then to be able to put in, boundaries where we need to for organizational context or other things too.
So I have two more questions for you. One will be, I think, for all of the CSOs out there, which, I don't know, maybe in your past you were a CSO at some point, so this will land true. When people started to learn about the Microsoft Graph in the past and things like Delve and, where things were starting to get presented to people and the discovery of content, there were concerns around security, compliance, and overall, what is the administration of this? When somebody looks at, purchasing topics and bringing this in and turning it on and starting to program it, how do you take the foot off the gas pedal when people are looking at it from a security perspective? What should they know? What should an admin know about topics specific to security, compliance, or some of the administration controls that they'll have?
So the first thing, as I would say, we use the same, Microsoft Graph permissions, right? All of this, of course, is underlaid with the promise that we have with Microsoft 365. And so with Microsoft 365, you have, security permissions that are on specific pieces of content within sites, the structure of those things. Nothing changes from Viva Topics there. So we don't change any permissions. We don't give people access to things that they don't have access to already. And we want to make sure that all of those permissions are already held. Now, there's a couple different things that when you're first getting started to your question of like, hey, I'm going to have this go through and just figure out, what I can see basically from an intranet perspective. You can actually set the scoping of that and say, is it all sites, for example, that you want on your SharePoint intranet for it to go through? Or is there some sites and you want to exclude other sites, right? Specifically exclude other sites? Or is it, just a very restricted number of sites that you want it to look at? And so it's very easy for folks to scope basically where that discovery of that that content is coming from, and to help with, hey, this is where we're forming that knowledge index from as well. And then the other piece of that is just being able to exclude topics that are sensitive. The first thing that people always ask to me is like, hey, what if we're going to do some M&A operation, or we have some sensitive project that we don't want folks to know about? Well, guess what? You should already have site security on that with that, right? Of like having a policy that's implemented there that says this is, confidential information inside of the company. It should not be shared with anybody, in which case that information either should be excluded proactively, which you can easily do in the admin panel, or you can also just say, hey, these only the folks who have access to that information, which is the usual way that you're working collaboratively anyway, only those folks have access to that information, in which case no one else is going to see it because of Viva Topics. And so those are, the two big cases there. Now, I will say there are other areas where we're looking at, for records and sensitivity policies. If you have those things implemented with Microsoft Information Protection, we want to make sure that you're also being able to use those same protections in here as well. So that's another component to what we're doing with Viva Topics. So, the upshot is, even as a knowledge manager, you cannot see any topics that you don't have access to. And the reason we do definition around topics that you have access to is about the resources that are under there. So it's always the resources that are feeding what is an actual topic. And so each piece of content has its own security permissions already. And those are the permissions that we're looking at. And then you can proactively exclude things as you need to as well. We have multiple levels of there.
It was one of the things that I know part of the launch messaging that I picked up on. I know it wasn't just me, but how is this built, and how are people going to sort of already have taken advantage of it based on what they've already done? You are really building topics as an extension to what already SharePoint provides as a content service layer already. And that includes permissions. It includes all the value of how people work together and what they can and can't see, or should or shouldn't see. Maybe a little silly, but I think I've got a new industry term. You just described, instead of e-discovery, I think this could be referenced as K-discovery. K being knowledge. What do you think?
I like that. It's great.
So,
could be Cashman discovery too, right?
Ooh, I like that. Well, here I am. You found me. If there's anything in the future that you can tell us, we know there was this initial buzz of Project Cortex. SharePoint Syntax shipped and is now out there. Topics is now GA as of this month. Can I probe you to see if there's anything, at least strategically, we can learn about what's to come next out of this project in your team?
Yes. And I think about this in that intersection of people and AI, and then thinking through what we're doing with both managed metadata, using that as kind of a structured way to seed topics into your knowledge network. So that's a big piece of this too. And then further on, we want to think through aggregation of what we're doing with topics, right? Right now, we're aggregating information essentially to create these dynamic topics inside of the Microsoft Graph. And those things change and morph over time. But what if we could take one more step after aggregation? And we think about generation of things from there as well. And so if you look at expertise and how that's morphed, and how we're connecting obviously to the rest of Microsoft Viva with learning and insights as well. So taking those things together, and then how we're helping to target information with what we're doing with Viva Connections. You can think about expertise as being something really interesting of like, hey, I care about this obviously as an individual, as an employee inside of an organization, and how I'm building my competency up there. But maybe I could also help to generate some of the areas around this too. And maybe I could look at this as a more strategic asset inside of my company. And so you see the next wave of innovation that we'll have obviously is around connecting what we have with Microsoft Viva together more generally with this knowledge network, and thinking through like, what is the next sets of platform innovations that we need to deliver in order to help with business performance overall.
I will keep my eyes peeled, and I know our audience will too. Anything Viva, and then we'll just leave it as an underscore right now. Viva with a little blank. Naomi, thank you for joining the Interzone. Thank you for telling us more about topics. I want to congratulate you again, because I know this has not just been a couple weeks that you've been working on this. So big congratulations on GA. And if you can pass that to your team on behalf of the Interzone as well.
I will definitely have an amazing and awesome team that are all behind this too. So yes, incredibly excited. We're incredibly excited to talk with the community as well and get your learnings from it. And we're V1, but V of many, I will say, going forward.
All right. Well, your V1 looks pretty good to me, so can't wait for more.
Thanks so much, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
This week's show is brought to you by Microsoft Lists, your smart information tracking app in Microsoft 365. Keeping track of information isn't everyone's job description today. Writing things down works for simple lists, but it can get overwhelming when you need to stay on top of hundreds of items and get others to pay attention and act. Microsoft Lists is a Microsoft 365 app that helps you easily track information and organize your work. Lists are simple, smart, and flexible, so you can stay on top of what matters most to your team. Track issues, assets, routines, contacts, inventory, and more, using customizable views and smart rules and alerts to keep everyone in sync. With ready-made templates, you can quickly start lists online, on our new mobile app for iOS, and directly within Microsoft Teams. And because it's part of Microsoft 365, you can rely on enterprise-ready security and compliance. Your lists just got a whole lot smarter. Get more done with Microsoft Lists. Go to aka.ms/MS Lists for more information, videos, demos, blogs, and more. That's aka.ms/MS Lists. Make a list and let it flow.
I hope you always enjoy hearing direct from our engineers, and especially from Naomi, who leads a pretty broad team that's bringing a lot of great new technology. She and her team are behind SharePoint Syntax, Microsoft Search, both of which have not only released a lot of updates recently, but provide a lot of value throughout the intranet. And now, with Microsoft Viva Topics, it adds to that employee experience that really taps into that underpinning of a wonderful content service that drives how you manage, how you find, how you discover content and people. Switching gears, let's move into the teamwork section of the Roadmap Pitstop. First up is a little bit of innovation within lists, Microsoft Lists, and it also relates to SharePoint Lists. We're adding support for a thousands separator and custom symbols in and when you use the number column. With Microsoft Lists and SharePoint Lists, owners and members have the ability to add 1,000 separators to numbers and to be able to choose their preferred symbols that best represents what the number represents, like the various currency symbols used across the world. There's an important difference between the yen and the euro, and you want to be as clear as can be. The right symbol can go a long way. Actually gets me thinking, maybe I can write a money heist novel called The Yen and the Euro. It has a nice ring to it. I'm sure it'll make the Microsoft Book Lists top 10 for sure. Next up in teamwork, we are adding taxonomy columns for modern SharePoint library views. Yes, the power of the metadata in hands of those that need to manage document library content as the business prescribes. This new feature gives you the ability to add taxonomy-powered columns directly to library views in modern SharePoint libraries. A quick note, SharePoint document libraries are powered by lists for their row and column structure and, of course, the capabilities that come with it. With this update, users will see a new Managed Metadata option as a column type within the Add Column menu in SharePoint Lists and Libraries. Then simply specify the column information, such as name and description, as well as choose their organization's desired term set or term to associate the column with. From there, the use of the column is driven by the managed metadata coming from the programmed managed term set. Gives you a lot more control from the top level down, but a lot of freedom and up levels, removing some of the complexity when you're building out those terms in the column as you're tracking it at the level of a list or a library. The last item within Teamwork, Microsoft Search is coming to classic SharePoint sites. This is a quick and simple one with lots of power for sites that have been around for a while and may still be in classic mode. We are expanding the reach of Microsoft Search. Classic SharePoint team sites that do not have customized search experience will be updated to the modern Microsoft Search experience, bringing improved personalization and relevance. That's it. Another example of how Microsoft Search is truly powering search throughout Microsoft 365, or maybe a better way to think of it is no site left behind when it comes to searching for things. All right, let us move into related technologies. Let's start this section off with a prediction. I predict text predictions are coming to Word for Windows. Initially, text predictions popped up in Outlook for Windows during composition to help users write more efficiently by predicting text quickly and accurately. Now, text predictions are coming to Microsoft Word when writing documents in English. And we know a lot of Word documents are created in Teams, SharePoint, and OneDrive. As you type, you'll get suggested text, which you can accept by tapping the Tab key, or you can ignore the suggestions by simply continuing to type. The feature reduces spelling and grammar errors and learns over time to give you the best recommendations based on your writing style. Note, this is a Microsoft 365 connected experience and can be turned off by going to any Microsoft 365 application such as Word, Excel, or PowerPoint and going to File, Account, Manage Settings. This feature can also be managed through the policy settings for privacy controls. Next, in related technology, and it's one of those that you probably use all the time and didn't realize where the technology came from, but the technology itself is evolving. This is the evolution of Microsoft Lens, formerly Office Lens. And with the evolution beyond the new name comes some dynamic new features like intelligent actions into the camera, including image to text, image to table, image to contact, immersive reader, and a QR code scan. We are releasing an improved scan experience, allowing you to reorder pages, re-edit scanned PDFs, apply a filter to all images in the document, scan up to 100 pages as images or PDFs, easily switch between local and cloud locations while saving a PDF, along with an easy way to identify local and cloud drives. We're noting it here because Microsoft Lens powers the camera in Microsoft 365 mobile apps, including Office, Microsoft Teams, Outlook, and OneDrive. Yes, OneDrive loves Lens, so scan that physical world right where it needs and when it needs to be stored digitally. A lot more to learn about the cool things you can do with Microsoft Lens, and know that it's a core part of that scanning technology in a lot of Microsoft 365 apps. Now, that tip of the Lens hat to OneDrive brings us to our last feature in this Teamwork segment, and it's a mobile one. OneDrive for Android has gotten some nice new updates. We're introducing an updated home screen experience for Android users, plus support for Samsung motion photos and 8K video. Now you can pick up right where you left off on recent and offline files and easily rediscover memories from the past right from your home screen. For Samsung Android phones, OneDrive has always saved your Samsung motion photos, and now you'll actually be able to view them in all of their moving glory. It's not just storage anymore. Similarly, you've always been able to store Samsung 8K videos with no loss or compression on OneDrive, and now you can play them back as well. Lots to learn more, lots to see about the updated OneDrive for Android app. Okay, time to close your eyes and visualize the future. Here are 2 teasers for what's coming in March 2021. Teaser number 1, the SharePoint app bar. You can hear it. Global navigation screams and claps from around the world. Yes, global navigation is coming to the cloud. Woo! Teaser number 2, SharePoint page analytics. See how pages are performing and course correct from there. Beyond those 2 teasers, watch for a ton of long-term teasers coming out of Ignite 2021 Spring. Tomorrow, March 2nd, 2021, there will be a lot of news around Viva, along with new disclosures for Teams, Lists, SharePoint, and more across the whole of Microsoft. Check the blogs, check the public roadmap, and tune in to see what Satya Nadella and all our other leaders share publicly for the first time. Visit myignite.microsoft.com, register, engage, and see it all in real time, or if you miss something, all of it will be on demand as well. That's it with this month's Crystal Ball. We'll share more details and other features and updates within the full SharePoint Roadmap Pitstop March 2021 edition next month. We've added a list of important resource links in the show notes and in the corresponding blog post on the Microsoft Tech community within the SharePoint community blog, giving you all that you need to get up to speed and stay ahead. I hope you've enjoyed this roadmap pit stop. Time to relax knowing that you're all caught up for this short but very busy month. If anything still leaves you scratching your head with open questions or concerns, please send us your thoughts and comments to the introzone@microsoft.com. We're here to put both our and your best change management foot forward. Until next month, may your winter shadow bring the best collaboration you can imagine.